I think in English we all imagine that we know what a witch looks like. She probably has, is a woman, probably has a pointy hat and flies around on a broomstick. But in Manx, there's other words for other types of things which are out there. And a very nice one is the caillagh. And a caillagh is an old woman who will live in the wilderness in the Isle of Man. Will be up in the hills, and she will eat you.
Ooh. Oh.
And so if you're out and about in the hills or, somewhere dark and lonely, watch out for an old lady who might have a very large grinning mouth and large teeth who might open it wide enough to swallow you whole.
Oh, gosh.
That's horrible.
I didn't see that
sends
coming.
shivers, doesn't it? You said it was a very nice one. I don't think the caillagh does sound very nice at all.
Well, nice in a way, And it's what I like about it is that it's so more exciting and interesting than the pointy-hatted witch.
It is
dangerous,
and it's much more Manx.
Yeah.
It's like,
so does that type of witch then appear in other cultures then, or is this something you think is specific to the island?
it's the word caillagh is across the Gaelic-speaking world, and so you'll find these caillagh in Scotland and in Ireland and other Celtic countries. But they're particularly prevalent in the Isle of Man 100 years ago, and they're all over it. And I think because we've kind of lost that word, we've lost connection to this caillagh. But it still appears in the Ramsey Hopchinay song, where it's one of the rarer Hopchinay songs, but in it, Ginny the witch eats things. She eats a horse, a cow, a sheep, a hog, a dog, a ringy, a mouse, and if you're not careful, she'll eat you too.
So
I didn't know this Ramsey song.
No.
Mine's very dull in comparison, my Ramsey Hopchinay song, but I've not heard that one.
And it's still sung. We only collected it 10 or so years ago.
Gosh.
And so you can still hear it if you're lucky up north.
So is that how you first heard about this caillagh, was through discovering things like that song?
Well, it's actually staring us right in the face. If you read Hansel and Gretel correctly, you'll recognise that witch is not really a witch. She's just an old woman who lives in the wilderness. In Germany, it's the woods, and she eats children.
like Baba Yaga. I remember reading story. She was the chicken-footed
she's
witch
terrifying.
in the woods. Yeah, but she ate children, didn't she? And it's a Hungarian story, that one, I think. Yeah.
I feel like we need some spooky music under this right now.
I don't know, don't freak me out too much, Christy.
I know, half term and all the kids will be thinking, I'm terrified by this. Also, you mentioned sort of something, and you sent us some sort of little notes about what we could talk about today. I like this idea of ghosts sitting on your roof. Tell us about this.
It's a weird one, this. The ghosts aren't really a thing which are traditionally a part of Hopchinay, but there is at least one story, and we all like ghosts at this time of year, so why not tell the one story which is there? In 1965, a fella named Joe Woods was recorded singing Manx folk song, and after singing Hopchinay, he then told this little story which he learnt from his dad or his parents, and they said you had to be asleep at midnight on Hopchinay, or else the dead who had died that year would be sat on your roofs, and they would know that you were awake or out and about, and they'd come down. And apparently Joe Woods' dad was out one Hopchinay after midnight, and he saw his own father, and his father came down and said, "Go back to bed. The night for us, the day for you. Go back to bed."
Oh, that's amazing.
Crikey.
Oh my word, we're going to need disclaimers with these, aren't we? They're genuinely spooky.
I love, though, that you started that with an interesting one, or a strange one, a funny one. Are any of them, a particularly unusual one? They're all pretty, off the wall, aren't they?
They are. And we were hearing yesterday from Julie and Annie as well about the sort of, and with Sue Woolley too, talking about the idea of light and being very important this time of year, and how actually it sort of links in almost with Diwali as well, which is this time of year as well. And that is sort of part of the sort of element of fire too, isn't it?
Yeah, fire is one of the oldest, looking back at the records of Hopchinay, it's one of the oldest things which is there in writings about Hopchinay. And like Eve Alden, which many might know now, at the other end of the year, at the start of May, fires were lit on your land to let the smoke drive out evil from your land. And so traditionally on Hopchinay night, you'd see lots of fires all over the Isle of Man. And it's my own little thought about it is that perhaps we don't see them now because it's been absorbed into a few days later on bonfire night, of course.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so I like to think of us all stood around watching these fires as a community in some sense, still driving out evil and wishing good for the year ahead for our community.